So we're doing this series of videos to kind of celebrate my 20th year on national television, and I've told a few stories about how I grew up in Marianna, Florida, moved to Mobile, Alabama, went to school at the University of South Alabama, and I want to tell you how I decided to go into business for myself. When I first moved to Mobile, anytime I had an opportunity to plan a trip for me and 2 or 3 of my friends, we would do these very inexpensive trips. Back then, of course, the gas was less than $1, and we would all load up in a truck and we would go backpacking. And I'm not talking about around the corner. I'm talking about Canada, Colorado, Utah. We went all over the place on these very well-planned trips. And it'd be during a time where we were not in school, so I would go off and still love the backpacking, but don't get a chance to do that very often because my girls are more focused on the beach. So I end up taking them to the beach here and there on vacations. But during one of those trips on my way back, I started thinking, I remember it was around the 1st of August, 1978, and I was on my way back right through the heartland of America. I remember going through Kansas, and it wasn't my time to drive, so I was just kind of reflecting. I was tired, and after you're on the road for about a month with 3 or 4 of your friends, there's not a lot of conversation that takes place there towards the end of those trips. You've told the stories, you've had a few spats, and a little alone time, even though you were in a truck with 3 or 4 guys. And we had the back of the truck set up to where you're able to escape a little bit. But I was in the back of the truck sitting there looking at the landscape and thinking about it. And all of a sudden it hit me that I was pretty good at repairing things. And I have a pretty good business mind. So what would it take for me to go into business for myself? So I had this little journal that I was writing of all of the campsites we'd been to. I turned another page on that, and I laid out my plan right then, and the words were flowing like crazy, and all of a sudden it hit me. I'm going in business for myself, and I'm going to start a handyman business, and I'll do anything I have to do to stay in business. And I did that very thing. By the time I got back to Mobile, I was completely pumped up and ready to go. 2 days later, the guy that I was working with part-time, which was this real estate guy that did a lot of buying old houses and repairing them and reselling them, I gave him my 2 weeks notice. He thought I was crazy and that I'm going into business for myself. So I did the homework that I needed to. And on August 28th, 1978, I went into the courthouse and I bought my first city license. And that's when I started my business. Now, August of 2018 will be 40 years that I've been in business as a contractor. So I got my license and I started again doing everything I possibly could. Handyman, I would clean gutters, I'd put on deadbolt locks, I would do just about anything. And over the years I had learned a lot about electrical and plumbing and air conditioning and concrete, and I did it all. And I kept doing that, and then I would start building a little porch and an addition, and then it kept growing and growing, and then I got my first employee and 2 employees, and just very slow, very methodical, I grew the business on and on. And so to separate myself from the pack, one of the things I realized that, nobody called themselves a remodeler. And I think maybe it had a bad connotation to it because people think of, maybe a remodeler is that guy in the back of the old beat-up pickup truck that maybe doesn't have enough credit to borrow money to build houses or whatever it might be. But I saw it as a way that I could really stand alone. And people needed remodeling, so I said that I was a remodeling contractor. And over the years, it became very synonymous with my name related to remodeling, professional quality remodeling. And I built quite a good business by doing so. And part of that marketing and separating myself from the pack was to take any opportunity I could to get in front of a group of homeowners. Garden clubs, a lot of home and garden shows locally that I would speak to groups, do 2 or 3 little seminars, and I got tons of business out of it. Then one day, someone came up to me and said, "Hey, you can talk pretty well. Why don't you be one of our guests on a new show we're doing on a cable access channel?" And I said, well, you know, a little skeptical, so I went and talked to them, and they said, hey, you'll be great. We have a lady that's going to host this show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. It'll be live, and their thinking is that, you know, Monday Night Football was really big then, as it is now, and they were thinking, okay, the guys will be downstairs in the den watching the football game, and the ladies will need something to watch, so why not, at the same time Monday Night Football, have a show that will relate to decorating, home improvement, that type of thing. So I was going to be the guest once a month on to talk about remodeling. Perfect. Wouldn't cost me anything, great advertisement, great PR, and that's exactly what I agreed to do. While I was there in their office talking to them about it, the general manager got a phone call. And as fate would have it, that phone call was from the lady that was going to host the show. Had a little argument, never knew what that was about, but she quit right then, week before the show was to premiere. The guy, general manager, talked to the sales manager, and I'm looking around going, what's going on? They turned around and said, hey, do you want to host a show? You seem like you've got, you know, got what it takes. And I, oh, I don't know, what'll it cost me? They go, no. We'll pay you $100 a week if you'll host the show every Monday night. I said, sure. I shook hands, and that's when my TV career started.
Hello, welcome to Better Living.
September of 1988 was one of the most pivotal moments in the history of mankind. It was a time when the likes of Sir Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, and Al Pacino began to quake in their boots. For it was in September of 1988 when a 31-year-old legend was introduced to the airwaves in a classic piece of cinematic perfection.
Show you some of the different projects that we have going and show you how to make your dream home into even more of a dream home.
That was September 18th, 1988. So basically around 30 years ago. So I started that Monday night, live, no screeners, nothing. People could just call me at any point. And in this next video that will be coming up, I'll tell you about the traumatic experience of being on that show, how it was really the foundation for me to move on to a lot of other things. So I hope you'll check back in when we post that video.